What if someone is always watching in your house, even when you're alone, and you can't make them leave? I have never said the following out loud or in text until recently. I opened up to my wife about it because of our new apartment. Anyway, I feel compelled to say here I am a rational man who believes in the scientific method. I believe not just what I see, but what can be verified. I have no explanation for what follows, but I can attest that everything is true. My grandmother was sensitive. You'd be having a bad day, and she'd call and say she had a feeling you needed to talk. Nothing super crazy or anything, but just always seemed to know what you were feeling, especially when distressed, no matter how far away she was or what she was doing. She also would explicitly avoid ghost stories. While she was very spiritual, she refused to speak about her personal beliefs. I picked up whatever it was she had. My whole life I have just known things. I cannot describe it. When I tried to talk to my wife about this the other night, I said it was like a smell, but with your skin. Like my grandmother, I know what people are really feeling, always. And I've always been able to sense things. What they are. I ghost hunted for a year in my freshman year of college to try to find out, but I never got a satisfactory answer. I don't believe in ghosts, but I know there are things we don't understand. For example, growing up, we lived in an old townhouse that was on the land of a man who was truly a monster. Lee Masters from Carroll County, MD. He owned a ton of land and had a habit of running it like a tyrant. He would regularly rape his slaves, and when they would become pregnant, he would burn them alive in the limestone furnace he had on his land. I lived on this land. I helped to work on the archaeological dig that eventually dug up the furnace, confirming the myths by finding the bones of his burnt slaves. From the time I was a small child, I hated our house. My parents were going through a very rough and violent divorce, and I'm sure that didn't help, but I hated being alone. I could feel something with me all the time, and I knew it wasn't nice. It was like a dark shadow that hung in the corner of every room I was in, especially the basement and my room. For the longest time, I thought it was just childish fear of the dark. But then I had a brother. He is not sensitive, but even he felt it. We would both hear footsteps scratching at our bedroom door at night, heavy breathing. I would have a recurring dream every night of going to the top of the basement steps, jumping down into the darkness, landing, climbing back up, and doing it again. I have been unable to confirm from my parents if I actually did this, as I have been known to sleepwalk on occasion. But I was never hurt, and these were tall stairs. So I'm inclined to think it was just a dream. But every night the same thing, down into the dark, to the point I started losing sleep. It got worse as I got older. Lights would turn off and on. The TV would cut out for no reason, then back on when we checked. Doors would open and close on themselves. Shadows moved constantly out of the corner of my eye. Things would go missing and turn up in strange places months later, as if they never had gone anywhere. I started to have the sensation at night that someone wanted to physically attack me. On one occasion, I remember having some sort of seizure. I think I was 9 or 10 at that point. I never spoke of this to anyone except my brother. And eventually he told me to stop talking about it too. We did move eventually, but not because of this. The further we got away from Lee Masters' land, the less bad things became. Our new house was across the city, still his land but not his living property. For a while, we had the same, but it didn't feel as heavy at the new house. Things would happen, but it was no longer a constant presence. At times these things would happen in front of other people. Lights turning off and on and such. My one friend saw a shadow person with me. We were playing Age of Mythology in my basement and we both saw it move across the wall. I've never seen someone go so pale, lol. It took him forever to come back to my house after that. Over time, the activity faded, especially as I moved further and further away from the master's estate. I put these things out of my mind. Like I said, I'm a rational person. This shit is crazy. To even type this makes me feel like a lunatic because I mean, come on. So I forgot about it. Occasionally my brother mentions how since I moved out things stopped happening, but mostly we just didn't talk about it. Recently, I got a job as a property manager. The woman before me died in the apartment I get to live in of an opioid overdose. She was here for 3 days, and her dog had to eat her face to survive. When we moved in, I felt it again, the presence. Not as heavy, Not the same, but something there. I put it out of my mind. I ghost hunted for a year. Again, I know the rules. Pay it no mind, and it will go away. The woman passed suddenly and violently. She probably was just hanging around to come to terms. My wife spoke to her, told her thank you for the apartment and to move on. She did this without talking to me, and without me to her. I mean, what was I going to say? Honey, I can feel someone here. Ignore it until it goes away. She's my wife and I love her, but if she said that to me, would I buy it? Anyway, since then I have felt it more and more. I can see her. Never directly. But I get that smell with my skin every time she is in the room. I know what she looks like even though I've never met her. She just comes and watches, but it's gotten stronger and stronger. I cannot explain it in words, but such a physically overpowering sensation on my skin. I had to tell my wife. I have not felt this since I was a child, and even then I figured it was all in my head. When I told my wife what I was feeling, she said the day that she spoke with the woman, our dog started sniffing around like crazy. She eventually rooted out a plastic bag from under our heater filled with bloody gauze pads. Probably the woman who lived here before us. She had an opioid addiction and would shoot heroin. These pads were probably what she used on her arm. My wife said she had independently been having the same feeling that someone was around, and that's why she spoke to her in the first place. We've since gone on to ignore it, but what I can't ignore is what I feel. I think I have what my grandmother had, but I don't have a name for it, or an explanation for what is going on, and that makes me feel afraid. I mean, is consciousness a natural phenomenon like radio waves, and our bodies just antennae that pick up specific frequencies for a time? Is her frequency still vibrating in this apartment? Do I have some kind of recessive gene that gives me a broader perception of the fourth dimension, and as such I can pick up on this woman for whatever reason? And why does it seem to be places where negative things happened? Why not positive things, like the spot where two people fell in love? I never get anything from stuff like that, not unless it's truly overpowering, in which case most folks pick up on it anyway. Boy howdy, this got long. But if you can't vent your insanity onto the internet, where can you? Also, all jokes aside, if anyone has any experience with this type of thing, please reach out to me. Edit. This kind of blew up, so I'm linking the story to masters below. Please, if anyone has similar experiences, I would love to talk about this. The more I read about it, the crazier it becomes because this shit just can't be real, and yet here it is. What if someone you think is safe hides something terrifying? You walk with him into the forest, thinking everything's under control. And then you realize it's already too late. I have posted this before, but it's by far the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. This post is very long, but I couldn't tell the whole story without it being this long. A long time ago, when I was a dumbass fuck missionary in Brazil, my companion and I were approached by a seemingly homeless man who greeted us in almost perfect English. Turns out he was an American who had been living in Brazil for about 30 years. His name was Bickford. He had to have been in his late 50s to 60s, hard to tell because of his big beard and unkempt appearance. He feigns interest in what we were peddling and asks for a copy of the Book of Mormon, but is clearly more excited to speak English with two Americans. We met him a few times in public but secluded spots. We had to give weekly reports to the ecclesiastical leader about who we were meeting. After meeting Bickford a few times, we mention him in the weekly meeting. The bishop and other leaders instantly know who we are talking about and caution us to stay away. Apparently, he's a bit unstable and once or twice a year will start bothering missionaries. My companion and I can't believe it's the same person, and we continue meeting him. I can't adequately describe the creepiness of this guy. Between his disheveled appearance, flat out lying to us, and other small signs, he had a certain sinister vibe. But with nothing concrete to point to, we continued speaking to him. Occasionally, he would run into us right outside the house we lived in. One night, after talking about his house in the jungle, he agrees to have us meet him at the side of the road in front of his house to guide us down the path. The time arrives and we wait patiently by the side of the road, but Bickford is very late. Just as we are about to leave, he arrives and leads us into the jungle. It is very dark, and we walk through waist-high foliage. This area had roads and cities but was next to a large reservoir, and leaving main roads could become very isolated and overgrown quickly. I kept walking into spider webs with my face and nearly losing my mind, as I hate spiders and these were the stuff of nightmares. Luckily, I carried a small LED flashlight, but it was almost useless in the jungle. When we finally arrive at his house, my companion and I try to play it cool, but we are shocked at what we see. He leads us to a small clearing where a wooden cabin has partially collapsed on itself. He says welcome home and leads us inside. There is no electricity, no running water, no utilities whatsoever. Inside, all the furniture is destroyed and trash is everywhere. He shows us the main room inside the front door. That's when I noticed them. Notes, in chalk, covering every square inch of the walls and ceiling in tiny frenzied handwriting. When I train my light on the notes, I start reading them. Most are variations on Jesus will forgive me, but I have to stop where I did it again with months and dates written next to them. The worst, names of several children, with ages and graphic sexual details. We tried so hard to ignore the notes and focus on other things in the room. I can't speak for my companion, but I was freaking out. From glances at each other, I could see he was at DEFCON 1 as well, and we decided to leave immediately. We make an excuse that it is getting late and need to go home. He reluctantly agrees to show us the way back, on the condition we would visit again. As we leave, he suddenly remembers a shortcut and tells us to follow him. The direction he tries to lead us clearly goes deeper into the jungle, not back to the road. We politely decline and follow the trail we originally made through the underbrush. This time, I didn't care about spiders at all. When we get back onto the road and realize we are safe, we look at each other as if to say, did that really happen? Once we start talking about it, I am so terrified I physically cannot speak. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before or since. I absolutely could not make a sound. My companion calls our leaders, who escalate, and we move about a week later. Before leaving, we make an entry in the area book warning all missionaries to stay away from Bickford. The entire ordeal sounds completely cliché, which is why after our second meeting I started recording our encounters with a digital camera on audio mode kept in my pocket. What if someone is always watching in your house, even when you're alone, and you can't make them leave?